Welcome Life Science learners to another installment of Life Sciences. I'm Yugen, and today with me, we're going to be focusing on biomes of South Africa. Now guys, it's important that we recognize that South Africa has a rich biodiversity, and that stems from the vastness of our rich biomes that we have. So when we talk of biomes, we need to understand the context of where we are. South Africa is a country that is surrounded with water around our coastal regions, but we've also got a large landmass. And so we have a combination of terrestrial biomes, those are the ones that are found on land, as well as the biomes along our coast. So in our lesson today, we're going to focus on both what biomes are, our terrestrial biomes, as well as the aquatic biomes. So let's get straight into having an overview of the concepts in our lesson before we move on to getting a detail of what the different biomes are. So as we wrap this lesson up, we're going to be looking at some terminology, essentially what a biome is and the different types of biomes. It's important that we review some important terminology. Ecosystems. So guys, if you recollect, we've always looked at ecosystems from grade 8 and 9. When we try and understand ecosystems, remember that a system refers to the interaction of different components. So ecology is the study of the environmental factors. When we look at ecosystems, we're looking at the interaction between the abiotic and the biotic components and how they are interdependent and interact closely. So essentially, we're looking at the living and the non-living components and how they interact with each other as well as the environment. And that's a field of study that's very significant in us in understanding our complexities around biodiversity. The abiotic factors that we refer to are the components that are non-living in the environment. So when we refer to our non-living components, we refer to them as the abiotic factors. And these influence how the environment is. It influences how organisms live in that specific biome. It's important to also recognize that we have living components, and those living components are called the biotic factors. And so we will spend some time looking at the biotic factors of each biome. So essentially the living components, which includes the plants and animals. Okay? So the term biosphere is essentially what we're going to unpack today. So the biosphere refers to, again, the sphere refers to a globe or kind of the earth that we live on, and the bio refers to the living components. So when we talk of biosphere, we refer to all parts of earth where humans and other organisms are able to live and interact with each other. As we get into the lesson and we unpack what biomes are and the different types of biomes, it's important that we recognize what a biome is. A biome is a large area with a certain climate, which is the abiotic components. Also, it refers to the specific kinds of plants and animals that are found typically in that area. So biomes are often distinguished by the type of plant and animals that are found in that area. A biome is usually made up of many ecosystems, so we have many ecosystems forming part of a biome.
We also know that biomes can be either terrestrial or aquatic, as we would look at further in the lesson, as well as it's important that often biomes are named after a dominant vegetation. So when we talk of your terrestrial biomes, we look at the dominant vegetation in that area, and that is often used as a characteristic to identify a biome. When we look at aquatic biomes, we'll have to unpack the factors that we look at in terms of the nature of the water, in terms of the living components in there that defines the type of biome. Right. So when we look at biomes broadly, we can look at biomes as either being terrestrial or aquatic. And so these images essentially show you two terrestrial biomes. And these biomes essentially point to the complexities and as well as the varieties that we experience on land. So here's the grassland biome with a rich diversity of grasses, and you've got your herbivores there. On the right hand side, we've got a desert biome, and typically seen where the temperature is extremely high, arid areas with very sparse vegetation. We obviously find a very different presence of living organisms in that area. So the type of organisms found are often influenced by the availability of food as well as the climate as well as the other abiotic factors. When we talk of the aquatic biosystems, we're going to unpack those in a little while. So these essentially refer to the biomes that are based on the availability of water in an area.
And broadly speaking, aquatic biomes can either be freshwater biomes or your marine biomes. So by marine biomes, we refer to those biomes that have presence of salt water or salty water, and your freshwater biomes are those that are found in your rivers, your dams, and your lakes. Okay, so as we get into the lesson, we've looked at some important terminology. We've tried to unpack what biomes are, and in our next segment, we spoke about the types of biomes. So broadly speaking, biomes are classified, again, according to the presence of land, in this case, the terrestrial, or the presence of these biomes in water. So broadly speaking, in South Africa, we have terrestrial biomes, and there are 7 biomes that we're going to look at. And in terms of the aquatic biomes, we've got to recognize the aquatic biomes are based on either being the rivers, the lakes, the dams, which are your freshwater biomes, or your marine biomes, which would vary along the depth of the ocean. It would depend on the type of water that we see entering the seas. So as a wrap of this segment, guys, we've looked at some important terminology. We've tried to unpack what the definition of a biome is, and what is crucial in understanding a biome is understanding that it's dependent on the typical vegetation, the climatic conditions, and both the plant and the animal for life forms. As we move on to the next segment, we're going to be looking at the types of terrestrial biomes in South Africa. In this, we would have to spend time looking at the map of South Africa. But before we get into that, it's important that you have a little break and then freshen up. So I'll see you in a bit after a short break. Take care. See you now.